Hey witches, welcome to SASS Mass. It's November 10th. Tomorrow is 11/11. I just realized that. I'm Maria. I'm your mod today. SASS Mass is a spirituality and support symposium. There's no agenda. We just all show up to gather as a community. It's open to all the witches in our app space um, at community.brightanddark.org. Um, I will post the terms in the chat. And so by participating, SAS, you agree to the terms. If everyone can just review those in a moment. We do a raised hand to kind of put everyone in order. And then if you want to weigh in, you could just type weigh in the chat. It's like very informal. And if you don't know how to use the buttons, you can also like just raise your hand and we'll figure it out. Um, and yes, so announcements kind of coming up. Um, we have been welcoming a bunch of people into the app space. Someone else just joined just now as I'm speaking. And so that's been very exciting. We have a new workshop, Feeling Feelings with Silver. And that is posted in our events. That's going to be on December 4th. That is a great workshop for anyone um, looking to kind of connect more on the shadow work side of things. The feelings part is kind of a key thing of what we do there. Oh, and there's Ezra now in the blue. um, we're gonna have some more workshops coming up. We are also been working really hard making some enhancements to the foundations program. And recently we just added a Monday meeting um, that Silver is also hosting, Shadow Study. And so we're excited about that. And so tomorrow is Monday. So for those in the foundations program, that's going to be a weekly offering. So we're excited about that. Any new witches that have joined foundations or may join in the next couple of days? On the 15th of every month, we meet to do the dedication candle and just talk about like orientation stuff. So that is coming up. And on the 21st of every month, we do our Witchwork Circle, which is where we do our spellcraft. So we'll keep everybody posted like in the app space about new things coming up. There's not going to be a live tomorrow, so we'll check in with everyone about our lives that we do on Instagram and TikTok, hopefully next week, but we'll keep everybody posted. Does anyone else have any announcements? All right. It's 11:11. Yay. And PST. Um, so we opened up this SaaS today. So usually we meet with the courtyard on the first Sunday of the month, and foundations and guild we continue the meetings weekly. But I felt important to open up SaaS today to everyone that felt called to attend, and I'm so excited to see so many of you here because there's a lot going on in the world, and everyone is like processing emotions. So we wanted to just have a space for that, for us to talk. People have, kind of been asking different questions, um, and definitely community gathering and community um, with people you feel aligned with seems really important at this time. So here we are. So I'm going to go on mute and anyone that wants to like start with a conversation, a question, go for it. We'll just hold space until someone wants to share. Who's morning, Petra?
That's how I see you. Go ahead. Oh, you're muted. Just so you know.
There we go. Yay, gods. Okay. So I have a question. It's kind of a two-parter. The first one is being so empathetic because I know a lot of us are right now, and feeling kind of this grandiose fear and anger and all of these really big emotions. I'm having trouble with my usual shielding, and it's not enough for me. Um, So I would like to kind of get some weigh-ins on what other people are doing to kind of shield, to kind of protect their own energy during all of this. And the second part of the question is when you're shielding, I don't know if anybody else does this, but I get thoughts about like just every random thing, and so it's hard for me to focus to actually shield well. So without, the ADHD thoughts that come in and that are going through my head while I'm trying to center and ground and really create that shield. So any help on shielding would be amazing right now.
Stephanie, do you have weigh-in?
I do have a way in. I should have typed it in chat. I'm sorry. Um, so Tawi, that's a really, really good question because I feel like a lot of us have gravitated towards that practice this week. We had a discussion about it Monday night and the discussions that Ezra was hosting on Monday nights now recently. So I apologize if it's a replay for anybody what I'm about to say, but I have seen it around a lot, and I've also started a practice for myself where instead of I don't have a name for it, right? Like instead of grounding and shielding, which immediately makes me feel in resistance,
Right.
right? Like and immediately makes my body feel, and this is my experience. I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but and I don't expect it to be, but it makes me feel in my body like a fight or flight resistance, right? Like which feels like anxiety to me, which feels like a lot in my chest and my stomach. And a practice that I've started in the last month or so, instead of a shield, I still have, my vision, like a bubble or something around me, and I fill it up with my own power and with my own um energy signatures that I want to align with, right? Generally before I go into a situation or something that I know is going to be a little more challenging for me, but the more I practice it, the more I'm able to just boom, throw it up, fill it up pretty quickly. I have found that that really helps me to remain in a place of power, if you will, rather than a place of like shielding and keeping things out. And then I can choose from that vantage point, like what aligns for me and what I want to allow in, and
Yeah.
what I would rather just sort of keep on the outside of the bubble and be able to observe rather than to integrate into my personal experience. So changing that practice just a little bit has helped me a ton. And when I say I threw myself into that this week, that is not an understatement. I am a hairdresser. I had, a chair full of people in a lot of emotional distress this week. And
Right.
that practice allowed me to really be there for them. And I was able um, to be able to really support my community, which filled me up even more.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it was just a little tweak on the perspective of that practice that you know, filling up my bubble rather than shielding it out completely was something that gave me more discernment and choice and autonomy over how I wanted it to play out. So that is all I have to add to that. I think, Silver, are you up next?
I think so. Yeah, what a great question. Because I've noticed that just like, there is a lot of either high fear and anxiety or excitement, which often registers in like a similar frequency. And so I've noticed that everything's louder than usual.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, I know I'm always the person going on about nervous system stuff, but I'm like, if you like don't have much of a nervous system soothing practice, um, great time to start one that will just quiet things. And then if you do already, I would say like double it up or like tenfold it or something, because we like really it just feels like whenever I enter, like there's been a bunch of people that who are very scared right now in my sphere, and then also the opposite. And so what I find though too is that they're looking for connection through making me feel the same way.
Right.
Like or inviting me to, essentially. Like I don't really think people like make us feel things, but um it's it's hard to, like, when someone comes into the room and is that amped up, um and to not feel inclined to join them. And I think nervous systems, like from their perspective, they're kind of looking to co-regulate whatever it is they're feeling. That makes people feel good when other people feel what they are feeling. And I have just had to stay a little bit firm, like more firm in where I am, so that I uh, don't feel inclined to amp up, and I can, and that I can regulate myself down again. But so I think that for me anyway, really like I've been listening to a lot of guided meditations and soothing, like kind of like hypnosis type of things to help me sort through these feelings and help me give a little extra structure um what would come after a couple years of doing this work a little more naturally to my system. And now I feel like maybe I'm like and farther back than I expected right now. And so I just, I'm trying to give, like, my body, like when this happened, in 2016, I literally got rid of everything that I owned and moved across the country. Like I
Yeah.
was just like, nope, I was in full flight mode, right? And so this is, actually like bringing up a uh, a cycle, right, that I have had before. And so I have just knowing that, and knowing what my body has been through previous to this, um I just am trying to be extra gentle on it, do extra soothing things, go through more breath work, more somatic exercises that bring me back into my body, because I think my inclination anyway is, oh wow, my body's really scared, better get out of that place. Like, let better go dissociate, right? And so just
Right.
it's taking a little extra, like, pulls back into myself to get that structure that I usually would have had in the bubble aspect. So um yeah, I hope that helps. That's really where I'm
Yeah,
at,
both
is
you
just
guys helped. Yeah.
yeah. So, Mumble Fairy.
Hi, everyone. Um, I first of all, thank you, Stephanie and Ezra. That kind of gave voice and words to what I've kind of been feeling and working through without actually knowing what those words were. But I think for me too, some of the stuff that I've been doing is doubling down on the nervous system regulation. Like I do EFT tapping, which is just a tool that has really helped me a lot. And so I do that almost every morning. And now, when I first started doing it, I used to do it like 3 times a day. And now I'm kind of back to doing it more frequently. but I think it's also, I see it as like riding this wave. So I'm feeling these things, I'm getting super anxious, and then I'm kind of like, I'm taking that in not only from myself, but from other people. But I've had these amazing conversations online and in person the last few days. And I feel like, in a way, the energy has also been kind of fueling me because I was feeling a really strong sense of despair and feeling like re- feeling like I refuse to do that and fall into that, and just making an active decision to feel hope and to find sources of hope, and then to kind of reach out in a collective way. Personally, I post TikTok videos to kind of like pull in that sense of hope and find other people who are feeling that sense of hope. So yes, that anxiety and that fear and that concern is still there. And I'm just like, my tendency is to run away from that, to go into fight or flight. And I am just letting myself feel it because it's such a legitimate feeling to be anxious. It's such a legitimate feeling to be concerned about what the future is going to look like. But all I can truly control is this moment and what I'm doing right now in this moment, and focusing on being present, which is always a struggle for me. But using those tools and just reverting back to that, like, no, the tools that I need. So I haven't seen it as much like Stephanie. I haven't seen it as shielding. I've seen it as, this is hard. It's hard in my body, but I'm going to use it, and I'm going to use it to drive me to community.
I love
That's what I
that.
had. And I think Wit was next after me.
Hello.
Hi.
So nice to see your face again.
Yeah, I missed you guys.
So in addition to what everyone said, because everything's been spot on, of course, I like to think about the times where kind of like when I'm having a hard time being able to ground myself or to meditate because my body's in that almost constant fight or flight, of using something externally to help me focus. So be that like a crystal or a necklace or something, like I like crystals because I can carry it around in my pocket. Like a smell, something to help like bring my body back to the now moment, and trying to like get into that my body in that moment of reminding myself that I'm safe. Um, you know, and it could be a variety of different things of, of what you might be struggling with, of, something to help remind you of like to take a breath and try to figure out if it's your emotion, if it's somebody else's emotion, like being able to take that moment, like I see like kind of the spell work that we do as ways to help us really kind of focus in on some of those things that are tougher for us. I can't meditate on a good day without intrusive thoughts and things popping in my brain all the time, and so like learning, it's tough, but learning how to handle that in the moment too and not get frustrated with it too, because like that's so easy to do coming from experience. It really throws me off sometimes if when it's like this like random, almost seemingly random thought comes through, or like what I'm trying not to think about, then I'm constantly thinking about it. So I think to add, that's just what I wanted to add in was, if you need something externally to help you, by all means, try a bunch of different things until you find the one thing that works for you. And it might have to change too,
Sure. That's super helpful.
Yeah, like I am one who really like relies on external things to help prompt and remind me of doing things. And I have to constantly change it. Otherwise I habituate to it. So so yeah, just another thing there. So
well, thank you all. That was wonderful.
I think Ocean, you're next.
Oh, did you want to weigh back in, Silver? Oh, okay. Your hand was still up. I wasn't sure. I have a couple of questions, if that's okay. Cool.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah.
Okay, I saw you shake your head. I was like, that feels like a yes.
Yes.
But
Yes. Of
thank you for answering.
course.
Um, so you don't have to answer here, but these are for consideration. What are you shielding from? Are you being threatened in this moment when you feel like you need to shield? And I say that as somebody with high anxiety who like perceives a lot of things as a threat. And what I've been
Sure.
working on in therapy recently is don't create a threat where there isn't one.
Yeah.
And so like feel what you're feeling and grieve and be angry, but let it go. Because when we create a story of threat around our feelings, then it keeps us ruminating in them and it can like hold them around. I know there's a lot of things that feel really uncertain right now, but it feels important to me to point out that the how do I put this? Sorry.
Take your
the
time.
the the status quo hasn't actually changed. Like it's like what Jen Marie says. She says like what's real can't be threatened and what's unreal doesn't exist. So like
Yeah.
if we're treating their reality, the or I don't even want to say their reality, I just want to say if we're treating things that we don't prefer as like as a threat, as like as real, uh then we're giving them undue attention and power
Yeah.
in my perspective.
Absolutely.
And I think Maria is next.
Thank you.
Hi, I did have a weigh-in. I wait, is your hand still up or did you still have a weigh?
No, I just forgot to put it down.
That's okay.
It's
All
down
right.
now.
I'm going to pass it to Isabel because I'm still making my tea and I want to go upstairs. So I'm going to pass it to Isabel and then I'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. So it's um, a weigh-in, but also just a maybe sharing something that happened. I shared in the sacred space that I haven't been in the greatest of space for this past month. So I think it this little event that happened to me on Friday evening hit a little harder. But so I went to Petco and I was in line to pay, and I was next, and some guy cut in front of me, and I told him that there was a line, and he didn't care. He didn't acknowledge me. And when it was my turn to move up, the worker, the employee, told him, "Sir, you know there is a line. I have to take care of her first." And he turned around and very loudly told me to go back to my country. And I I know what to answer, but I froze because I felt called out and I felt embarrassed, and I was with my daughter, so I didn't know how to react. I don't know why I froze. I could have said something like, dude, this is my home. This is my place. I've never known any other country to be my home than this one. So I could have answered, but I didn't. But because I was with my daughter, I thought, no, I'm not going to like react negatively. Not that I mean, it is okay for her to see, which she does, to see me react. But I thought, hold it together, because I need to be strong to also show her that we're not going to be bullied and we can be strong. But when I got home, because I was dropped off, when I got home, I immediately went into the shower, and it was this instinctive need to just go into the shower and release it, let it go. And the shower was just cleansing me, and I was letting go of the anger, and I was pretty upset. But I thought, no, after the shower, and I took there for quite a while, but I thought, no, I'm washing it off. That feeling of dread that I'm not going to be frightened or yeah, so I was just letting go. And I know we can't just jump in the shower. And this is actually the first time that I react to a problem like this with a shower, but in the moment it just felt appropriate to like washing off negativity and I'm not going to hold on to it. And I didn't. Something that probably would have, I don't know, bothered me more in any other day, but it helped me. And I don't know how this is going to help anybody, but also a place of healing to me has always been the ocean. Ocean and forest have always been healing, and I know I can't run to the ocean every time I'm feeling upset. So the next best thing was that, and I don't. Oh, I did put some like lavender oil, and then I sat there after I was in the shower, and I thought I'm just gonna enjoy this time for myself and do me time, even if it's a little bit of it. Just do me times here and there throughout, sprinkled all over the day, instead of making it all about everybody else. In that way, try to reclaim my mental clarity, my mental space. So that's all I wanted to share, and I don't know if it'll help with anything, but that's how I dealt with my triggering moment. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Isabel. I'm going to pass it to Renee. And then
Oh, it's okay. So here's my problem. And just stop me if I'm doing the opposite of shielding, which is I'm kind of marinating in my rage, which I know is unhealthy, and I can't stop it. And I I know it's bad. I know it's like undermining. But I mean, it's almost like a self-sabotage, right? I know exactly what I'm doing and I can't seem to rein it in. Um, I mean, to the point where like yesterday I was having phantom smells and like I'm just getting bombarded, but I'm like letting it happen. It's almost like I want to punish myself for what happened, you know? So yeah, I'm having a hard time with this. Um, and I'm sorry, like I don't want to like impose that on everybody and nobody, I mean, honest, like I know everybody just talked about de-escalating it. I'm just having a really hard time doing that. So and sorry guys. I also have good news, which is my little cousin who's in her 20s and is so obviously a witch. And my mom's always like, you and Asha, you guys just do you guys like all the same stuff and all this stuff. It's like, but like we never talk about it out loud in the family, but we kind of have like coded language that we use with each other that makes it really obvious. Because I haven't seen her in person for like a year, but that is something that's making me happy. But okay, I'm gonna hop off. And if this is like too aggro, okay, bye.
thank you, Renee. Um, I wanted to weigh in and also uh, just come back to Isabel for a moment, just to like felt like I wanted to hold space for your experience. And I'm sorry that that happened. And I'm happy, I'm grateful that you felt you want to share that with us today to help in, processing that for you and to let us support you in that. And you had a lot of great comments in the chat too. I So the shielding thing is and like how like people are saying like how do I kind of deal with this? And I there's obviously choices, and so I guess all I can do is kind of share like my experience, and everyone is at like a different place, and I think it is whatever you feel safe doing. Um, when when I think about shielding, I kind of think of it, as uh, what a, if I'm trying to shield, and this is just how I kind of interact with it, if I'm shielding, um, am I resisting feeling something? And I say that kind of with a caveat of like what Silver was saying about like establishing a practice in kind of feeling your feelings, and whether that's you're doing shadow work with us in the foundations program, or you have your own practice and you're doing some of that in therapy or on your own, like all of the things. Um, so it is like highlighted of like that established practice of about, coming together in a community to kind of process and be there to support each other, because there's so many people feeling like similar. Um, but what do I do in this now moment, right? If I'm not like, if I'm feeling, like dysregulated, I'm not, maybe I don't have a practice, and like what do I do? And so it is kind of a moment or an opportunity to like kind of seek out those tools. But what I wanted to say about it was, if I'm shielding, am I actually resistant to feeling something, and why? And knowing that my belief system is that my body can handle any feeling and any emotion, and I'm going to interact with it. I'm not, I don't feel it as a power dynamic where that it's going to, overpower me. I'm going to like interact with it in a way I know that I can set boundaries where I need to as well. Um, and like this says, that looks different for everyone. I've definitely been I've felt differently in the past where I feel like it did overwhelm me. And it was just through a lot of like seeking out help and support to kind of help me process what I was experiencing. And the people that I chose to reach out to help and support were very intentional. Um, and Yeah, because I feel like when I'm do shield, when I do go into like a bubble mode, it's mostly just because I need a sensory break. And so that's when I do use kind of shielding or like putting myself in a bubble if my sensory system like feels overstimulated and I just need like a break if I'm in a certain circumstance. But feeling into like where there's resistance and why I think it's so important, why I feel into the resistance is because if there's something that is for me in this situation and I choose to not engage with it right now, it's in my lived experience that it's going to come up again. And so there's something in all these in it for us. And I know like that might sound weird to say but there is. There has to be, or else we wouldn't be experiencing it. And that like may look different for everyone, but it takes the for me like that takes the kind of sting out of it and more of the curiosity of like what is this really about? What actually is really going on, and how is this, like how am I going to engage with this? I think a lot about like the energetics um of it, and I'm not if someone is engaging in a way that I'm saying I don't prefer, I'm not necessarily going to meet them where they're at because that's the vibe that I've actually identified I don't prefer. And so like this event in our country like ties in and brings up so many things. Um, and I'm sorry if I like went off in a 5,000 directions, and I hope something I said was maybe helpful. And thanks for letting me share. Um,
No,
y-
Maria, like I feel like you're one of the only people that can like talk me down and like you know what I mean? And like everything you say like makes sense and I'm like, how come I can't do that? You know, like how come I can't do that for myself? But I appreciate it so much. And I just want to take a minute too And just, Isabel, I adore you, and I appreciate you so much, and you always, that never should have happened to you. That's what I'm gonna say about that. Thank you, Maria. Okay, I'm out.
Thank you,
Thank
Renee.
you.
That means the world to me.
All right, we got hands, we got weigh-ins. I see you in the chat. Wit, you had the weigh-in for Renee, so I'm just gonna pass it to you, and then we'll get to the hands. If you're there.
I am just,
Oh,
making
there you are.
making sure I do all the things. Okay.
Thank you.
So, Renee, I think you are probably not alone in feeling like that struggle of like, why can't I just like, do this the right way? Why can't I be doing this the right way? Which who knows what the right way is, right? And I think like being able to hold space for yourself for that too, of like knowing that is important, like you are on a journey. We are all on a journey. And the good and bad of this situation is that we it gives us an opportunity of really like looking at why we're feeling this way, like that shadow work level of, our sense of justice is going to kick in. I'm going to just make a blanket statement that most likely for the majority of us, their sense of justice is going to want to jump in and defend where we can, and we're going to make this big change if I could just convince this one person this or this person that. And it's a lot of energy that's spent on trying to do things, and like there's a space to do that. There will be a space to do that. It's recognizing like right now where you're at, and it might not be the time to work through your shadows in this very moment, but even just acknowledging them, and like being able to sit with them and be okay with them, of like, this is what I'm feeling in this moment, is an opportunity that we have, during these times. So, all right, now I'm starting to ramble a little bit.
No, thank you, Wit. Thank you.
I'm not sure who's next with, if anybody else did a weigh in or if
Oh, sure.
Dana is next.
I'm going to tell you that technology is challenging me today. Yeah, let's go to Dana.
Hi. You know, one thing that surprised me after all of this happened was what my friends thought of me. Because I had like a lot of friends call me to ask me what we are going to do, like I would know. And I was a little bit horrified. And I was like, oh my goodness. I you do that. And then I was like, so I told this friend, I was like, okay, get in your car, come up here, we're gonna go to breakfast. And she lives in Portland and I live in a really conservative little Washington town. And this breakfast place has gluten-free pancakes. I have celiac. We're going to this breakfast place. So we sit and we're thinking about, so we're sitting, we're eating, and she can't get over this human being at the counter with a hat on, a particular hat on. And that's the thing, is I have a wicked, wicked sense of humor, and I'm a nurse. And I looked at this person and I said, Vicki, what is your problem? You got 10 seconds away from a heart attack. They can bury him with a hat. So I've been using a lot of humor. I need humor. I need something to crack the tension. And that gives me freedom. Humor, wicked, dark humor gives me a little bit of freedom of spreading it out. This particular person is not a threat. I'm telling you that. We're good. And the other thing I was thinking about is, I spent years walking out of the house with that proverbial black cloak that would shield everything. I would disappear into it. And I don't know when it happened. It's been a little while now. I was like, you know what? Screw it. This is my good time. And I am a person who loves grocery stores. I could shop in a grocery store forever or whatever I'm doing. And I literally go to the grocery store for a good time. And so it's like, this is my good time. I got into my car, put my little usable bags in, and I'm going to the grocery store because I want to have a good time. And you're not going to spoil it. I don't particularly care who you are. So I started just filling up with like this pink, wonderful bubble of me in the grocery store, me wherever. The fabric store, okay, yes, the fabric store is definitely a good time. Knitting store, fabric store, carving store, whatever. And I thought, and I turned 60 the day after the election. My birthday is the first day of the revolution, is what I have decided. It is not that other day, it's the first day of the revolution. And it's like, at 60, am not going to run around and be somebody's football. You're not going to kick me around. I'm done. I am going to stay safe. I'm going to protect my children. But I'm going to have a good time because I've worked towards it. I don't know if that helps at all, but I'll tell you a really good joke. I'm not telling you all a joke, but I'm telling you that sometimes you need a really wicked, dark, good joke. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Um, close the chat, open the participants. Mumble Fairy.
Oh, I don't think the rage is uncalled for. I've been listening to just like so much rage music, and along with the other emotions and waves that I've been writing that I've been talking about, rage is in there, and I think it's healthy. And I think again, use it. It's it's a valid feeling in this, and I know you're like, well, I'm just really digging deep into the rage, and I'm continuing to perpetuate this rage. And if you don't want to feel that definitely work through it. But I also think it's okay, and I think it's warranted, and I think like that there is a collective sense of hope with all of us, but I think that there is that rage is part of it. For me, I kind of feel this sense of betrayal. I don't know if everyone else has that a little bit. Like I'm just feeling, yeah,
So
I feel
much.
very angry. Yeah,
So much.
so much. Um, Also, I know I'm gonna go a couple directions here. I do just want to say, Isabel, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And that is the exact thing that I was nervous about happening. I've had people starting to threaten me on public spaces, and I kind of also agree with Maria that like I'm not going to engage with them. Like my initial reaction was just to narc away, and then I was like, I'm not going to engage with this person. I just block them. I'm not even going to like go there with that person. If someone's going to come on my page and threaten me, I'm just going to go block them. They're not worth that engagement. They may not even be a real person. They may be a bot, but regardless, that's not worth my energy. Um, and that would be my lingering question after all the weigh-ins are done is how are you all handling some of the threats as they occur? And are you guys just doing the same thing? You're just blocking and not engaging and just keeping yourself safe? And oh, yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm a little anxious, but I think it's like it's a good thing. I'm writing it. That's all I have.
Such a good point. Morgana is next. Oh, sorry. Yes, Morgana is next.
Camera's being really weird. I have like a shadow. Um, so I had a particular person describe um that's my Ghibli kitty. She wants to say something too, I guess. Um, well, okay. He totally threw me off. Um, as far as like sensory issues and picking up, you know, extra auditory or olfactory or visual signals. Um, the first thing I do is I check in with myself to make sure I'm feeling myself. You know, if I don't feel well, then I'm like, okay, is this connected to how I feel? If it's not, then I ask myself, is this connected to my emotions? If it's not connected to my emotions, then I'll be like, okay, is this connected to a memory? Because a lot of the times my ancestors will let their presence be known through scent, through, you know, different odors, um, especially tobacco or perfume. That's my experience. And with feeling emotions, especially when we're in a time where emotions are really intense, um, I do trust my body and my mind to feel what it needs to feel, but I'm also a person, I'm aware that I'm a person who feels things very, very intensely. So I know I have to have coping mechanisms in place. So if I'm feeling things too intensely, so that I can basically de-escalate my own emotional system. Um, and you know, I've worked with therapists and mental health programs to like build those um, you know, and different things work for different people. Um, but if that's something that you've realized is true for you, that's something where, you know, you ask your therapist, hey, well, I'd say go ask about dialectical behavior therapy because I'm in love with it, DBT. But it's not the answer for everybody. Um, but in a nutshell, you acknowledge the emotion, but you also acknowledge that you need to like detach from the emotion at this time and reapproach it later when your emotions are not as heightened, um, which is important in these times. All that into shielding, which was another subject that was on people's minds, is when I do shielding, it doesn't include my emotional state. Shielding for me is it's kind of to create like a sterile barrier of the things that um would be interrupters or distractors or triggers that are unneeded at that time. Um so I I was centering myself with taking 3 or 5 or whatever deep breaths, and then I envision, well, through Reiki training, you American Reiki training is modern, right? American Reiki training is tied with the American version of the chakra system. So I go through like each color and envision a barrier of each color, and then I envision a barrier of unseen colors that's like direct on my skin, and then I'll breathe deeply in, breathe deeply out, and then it'll expand like blowing up a balloon until it fills the area I need it to. And it's like a one-way permeable bubble. So I need something outside of my bubble. It like protects me like a skin, and I can grab it, and it like quote unquote sterilizes the object, and then it's in my bubble again. But like I said, that doesn't affect my emotions or my emotional state. That just keeps out additional catalysts. So those are things that help me when I'm dysregulated. And as far as all the hullabaloo of everything, the thing I came back to is I'm the same person with the same core values, the same empathy, the same, willingness to help and educate and care for other people. Um, so I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to care for the people in my community, the family, my chosen family. I'm going to continue to care for them. I'm going to continue to care for myself. None of what's happened has changed any of that. It may change what is needed, but I'm going to continue to be the compassionate, caring person that I am, because that's what the world needed last month, and it's what it needed this month. And I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to do it mindfully and in community with other people so that I can do it sustainably. And part of that community is, of course, y'all. So thank you for that. And I will pass it to the next person.
Thank you so much, Morgana. Wonderful words. We have Virginie up next, and then Ezra Silver after that.
Well, hi everyone. It's the evening on my side. I just wanted to show it one time who cares? Me, for a little introduction, I use an app, an application that helped me on the work on myself. And in this app, there was a text about fear, since a few and a lot on the different SASS Mass spoke about what you feel, what you were scared of, how you react to fear. I found this text again, and I wanted to read it to you if you were okay with it. And,
Sure.
I think my English will be better when I'm reading than when I'm speaking. The title is Resisting Fear. Although most people recognize that fear is vital to our survival, it's undoubtedly one of the easiest feelings to demonize. We resist fear because we confuse it with cowardice. We wrongly assume we need to eliminate it before anxiety-inducing events such as exams and presentations, and we try to hide it from others at all cost. So first, what I want to say about it, the fact that you speak about your fear to everyone here, to us, it's strange from you, because you're not trapped in your the feeling. You're able to distance yourself a bit from it, and you're able to breathe on it. The next part. But no, we can't delete fear from our emotional repertoire, and it wouldn't be a good idea if we could. However, experiencing this emotion too intensely or chronically isn't desirable either, and the key to finding a healthy balance lies in cultivating a sense of agency. When you feel helpless to decrease the threat of harm, your experience of fear will intensify. But when you feel able to cope with the threat, the intensity of the fear will decrease, and in some cases may even abate entirely. While appropriate coping mechanisms will of course vary from person to person and situation to situation, there's at least one takeaway from the information above. When you're in fear, it's better to do something than nothing, whether it's engaging in some kind of healthy routine, walking, meditation, yoga, using a breath intervention or tool, breathing exercise, journaling, tapping, or simply opening up and talking to a friend. Taking action is virtually always going to be better than waiting, hoping for the discomfort to pass. And there are some other things. A text I read in this app that I didn't find is that about the 5 reactions to fear. Me, at first, I only knew 2 or 3. Their fight, when you're anger, when there's anger, when you rage. There is a fly. I can't do it. I'm getting away. There is freeze when you you don't know how to react. You don't even understand the situation at some point. I personally, I tend to freeze. That's my primary reaction. There is I forgot what was the first one, but it was and the fifth one reaction that I feel is important to mention is pleasing others. It's also a reaction to fear in the way that if you please others people, they won't be aggressive, they won't be violent with you, and so it's when you act like that, it doesn't mean you're weak. It only means you're caring about your about staying alive, about having a chance for happiness. So I really dislike that I forgot the first one, but I think that what I said is already okay. And if you want, the app is in English, so it won't be too difficult for you to use it. If you want, I can write the title in the speech. So I'm gonna give to Ezra. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that, Virginie. I also wanted to read something. And it's a lot of it is just the basis of the somatic things that I will be doing in my like workshops and that I'm learning more and more about from this zine that I picked up at the not at the Convergence, but we went to a metaphysical shop right in Portland, and it's Somatic Witchery, and it's by Raylene Courtney. And the question that kind of like seems to be the thread that's going through right now is, so how the fuck do we generate bodily safety when living in a literally unsafe world? First, we seek understanding of this miraculous fleshed infrastructure that we live inside of. We become neuro-informed, seek somatic education, and explore our inherent wisdom of our own lived experience to grow our embodied comprehension of ourselves. We acknowledge that our surroundings are actually not okay, and that a haywire nervous system is actually a totally reasonable and evolutionarily intelligent response to what we live through and bear witness to. We dismantle any shame we feel about our functionality in such a fucked up world. We embrace being a mammal that is wired for bodily experience, remembering that the vast majority of our neurons exist for body to brain communication, not the other way around. And then we actively involve ourselves in this multi-way communication. We explore the magic of our breath and the witchery of attaching that breath to gentle, compassionate bodily movement. We remember we are born of earth and that the elements we are composed of already know how to calibrate with one another. We locate and co-create communities that welcome us as we are, validate our fear, and lift up our potential without trying to fix us. We learn to shift our attention away from our cognitive memories of traumas and toward the residual sensations they've left behind, allowing our brilliant bodies to begin metabolizing them. We allow the tears to come and have patience if they take a while to arrive. We allow our righteous anger, grief, fury, and heartache to take their rightful place in our awareness. And then we offer water, breath, and lymph for their safe passage out of us. We trust our bodies to complete and recomplete this experience with us over and over again. And so a lot of the thing that was coming up for me while listening to y'all, like this is kind of like a overall weigh in. I feel like we're on a similar wavelength and everything. And one of the I think it was a few months ago, the element that I decided to like focus on was fire. And that was the element that I felt the least attached to, I thought. But then I also looked around and realized how many like fire-based like creatures like I have like like that I have always loved. And one of the images I got was of fire being like a little rocket ship, right? Like fire being fuel if you face it in a certain direction, if you have movement in some way. But if you're sitting still and full of fire, then it's burning you up. And I also suffer from like chronic inflammation. So that was also part of that. And so it felt important for me to talk about that as when holding anger in the body, and how somebody else mentioned this, and I said it in the comments too, but anger is a justice seeker. It is telling you where the injustice is. And we're living in and going to be living in for a little while longer, a world where there are a lot of injustices happening. So it will make sense, like Renee was saying, that you're going to be having a lot of anger, that it's going to feel like where can I even put all this anger that I have, you know? And so using it, like framing it as fuel that is getting us to where we want to go, as long as we're willing to move. Like that's the caveat, is that it's like, it has to be a willing experience. And since we're so like stuck in this like functional freeze situation, that we're just paralyzed and like, I don't know where to go. And so part of feeling your feelings is learning where you specifically want to go. And you made it here. So that's congratulations and welcome. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Maria.
Thank you so much. I loved that. And if you wouldn't mind posting that. And Virginia, I know you mentioned posting something. I need to read it again. I'd love to read it so I can process it fully too. If you can post it in the app later when you have a chance. Um, I like was thinking, I wrote a bunch of stuff down, and I can't read my handwriting, so we'll see how it goes. But I think I can remember a lot of it. Like when I'm excitedly writing, I can't read my handwriting. So um like the thing that I've been getting pinged on just like the last couple days is you already, and I'm so aware of like maybe sounding like cliche, and I guess I'll say this. Um all experiences are valid, and wherever you are is exactly the perfect place to be. And so yeah, like everyone that shares is sharing from their perspective, and you take what you want and you leave what doesn't. And that's that's how we support each other um in our authenticity. Um but what I've been getting pinged a lot is, you for me, you don't just leave everything all the work that you've been doing, like you don't just leave it. You don't, this is like my guides talking to me, you don't just leave it and abandon it, like you continue. And even like with the work we're doing at Bright and Dark, and it's like keep doing what you're doing. Yes, like you can make enhancements or like things kind of get called in and you go with that, but what it feels like is just a call to continue. And I gather that a lot of us here have been doing like inner work and self help and things for a long time, like um where a lot of us are called sometimes in our own families, like to kind of be that different perspective, to be the cycle breaker, but it feels different. I think everyone's a cycle breaker. I think everyone that's alive during this time is on some level a cycle breaker, but it is a little more highlighted, I think, for witches. Um, and yeah, just to kind of acknowledge that. Um, I has been listening. I know I'm like mentioned Bashar a lot, but sometimes I'll like hear a video and then I like it, just those sometimes you hear something, it just kind of sits with you and you kind of think through it and like think on it more deeply. And so it's like when anxiety shows up, uh, to use it as a tool to show where you're not in alignment. And so although, and that like stuck with me, and um as just of like how can I engage with anxiety maybe differently than I have before, and what is showing up that doesn't feel in alignment. And as much as the call to action, I mean, you can hear it, okay, like whatever your clairs are, whatever your gifting is, like I'm sure that something's coming into your reality that we feel like this. It's either a shift, a call to action, like a call to support, a call of like what I can do to help. So I'll say this, what I feel is critically important is to turn inward right now to see what actually feels truly in alignment for you to do. Because what will happen is if we don't self care in this moment, we will get burnt out, and you will, maybe if dissociation is your thing, like we'll get tired and feel so overwhelmed and we'll go into something else. It could, right? That's one route in a million possibilities. That's one route it could go. And so I do feel it's not abandoning the call and it's not abandoning the people that are maybe seeking help. What we're doing right now, even just talking in this group and sharing, the ripple of this matters. It matters like more than you know. Like we're 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 doing the thing just by meeting together, right? By talking stuff our ancestors would have been killed for, right? And we're here and we're all in a safe place. And like right in this now moment, I feel safe in my body. Um, and I know that I can only act on what I can act on, right? Like I can only take action on what I'm able to really. And that feels important too. Um, people, when you see something that elevates your nervous system and someone's like, I'm just gonna say like someone's being an asshole or whatever, your interpretation of that is that they're being an asshole. They're doing, like there's that one perspective of like, well, they're showing you who they are. They're letting you know right in plain sight. There's no hiding, like, this is my perspective, this is who I am. And I'm like, thanks, that's great information. So I can like adjust my course so I can course correct and where I need to go based off of that information. Um, and I think in times, it's like times like this where it's hard and it's like, how do I show up in with my belief that we are all connected and we're all one? Like, how do I show up like that? Um, and again, I think that's like just going inward and really digging deep of what you feel called to interact with. It is okay to not interact. It is okay if you like do engage in like a name calling with someone. It's all okay. It like just kind of allowing some space that like we may, even though our beliefs feel, we want to be compassionate, and I think that that's important, and we want to be connected, but we're going to be clumsy because we're here in this having this human experience. So I just wanted to hold space for like the clumsiness of how we navigate it. um let's see, sorry, going through my notes. Just back to Satawi too, like the message that kind of came through for me is, um one, it is okay, like you have this, you shared like you have something coming up that like your self-care is at like the height. And I just say it's okay to give yourself permission to like disengage from helping the world right now. You know what I mean? Like, and I know you are a witch, and so I know you're hearing that and you're feeling called to, but when you can show up for yourself, that's how I think we show up for everybody else. So if you need to like not go on the internet for a week, don't. If maybe the app space is the only place, that's why we have a separate app. That's why we created Heartbeat. So you wouldn't have to go through the noise to get to us, right? To get to the community, so that it's just on its own app. Um, and so it's okay to self-care. Like, um, and maybe, like I said, if the shielding, like you could should shared, it's just, it doesn't seem like effective, and it's like, well, maybe it's just showing up for yourself that I'm the priority right now, and it doesn't mean you don't care. And sometimes that can bring up the shadow of guilt, and how we're like maybe processing guilt or feeling guilty that we can't jump into action, you know um and like how we act, I think, should be very intentional. And then there was a lot of talk about rage in the chat, which I absolutely love, because I think just like kind of thinking on, um, morality, like the question, like, well, like sometimes I feel like we know where our morals are. Wonder, does the universe align with that? Does the universe even have any morality? And feeling your rage, feeling exactly how you're feeling, is just honoring how you're feeling. Um, and there are so many ways to engage with that process. And that's what I encourage the inward turn to really feel into how you feel aligned with it, right? Like, um, I had before the election, I had a reading with somebody, an energetic reading. Her name's Heather May. She had a near-death experience, and I like to get readings from different types of practitioners to just like open up my perspectives and my practice. So this was one person I felt like I wanted to have a reading with. So I have a liver, fatty liver, and I asked her from like my energetic standpoint, what she like felt into. And she said, "Well, you stored your rage in your liver." I was like, "Well, that makes a lot of sense, and I don't think it's like, I think this is like little Maria, young adult Maria. I think that that makes sense, that I did internalize some of that rage I was feeling. It's interesting, like I'm still kind of going through of how I'm really feeling about that. So the jury's still out, but it did put like that enough that I think about it. Um, and so I think I just wanted to say, I wanted to maybe open it up, like, uh about rage. Like, how do you process rage? How do you feel rage? How are we feeling? Because since that would seem to be something that a lot of people are feeling. So, Petra, over to you.
Hi all, sorry. My glasses decided to drop on the ground and break right before this. So I was like fidgeting with them. I was like, oh no. So I will use my spares, and this will be weird because my brain will be like, what are you doing? These are different. Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. So I took a bazillion notes because everybody has been saying such good things. And I also feel like as the one of the few like Canadians in the group, I'm like, I sit in a different place, right, with this. It's a bit different for me. Obviously your politics affect my country because our conservatives are like, we just want to be like MAGA. And I'm like, like, why? Proximity, no, like the little brother syndrome of it all. And in my province, British Columbia, our conservatives almost won. We almost got a government that was like, we're going to get rid of like gender, anything, everywhere, like just all this sweeping stuff. And so I went through this a few weeks ago and then had a different outcome. And in that, like what everybody's been saying, they were just, I literally have like, I write big, so I have like pages of stuff, but I was like, I wrote so many things. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to try to like be mindful of time and get through it quickly. I think I'm just going to go like in order because it's going to go way back to the beginning. One thing I just really wanted to say in terms of nervous system stuff is regulated does not equal calm. And I think that that's really, really, really important in times like this. Regulated does not equal calm. It means congruent, responsive. It means your nervous system is responding appropriately to the stimulus in front of you, which means if someone is yelling at you and is angry, sometimes a freeze response is appropriate, right? That is a regulated nervous system. Deer freeze in headlights. We do this too. Like when we're faced with a threat that we're like, like, and we all have that physiological, like, there's kind of two freeze responses. There's the initial like, oh shit of it all, for lack of a better term. And then there's the like prolonged freeze, right? And that orienting freeze, the first one, is super normal. So I just want to say that like when someone comes at you really aggressively, if you're like, whoa, and you kind of just like tense up and freeze, like that's normal. Your body's like, I don't know, I'm just gonna not move. Maybe they can't see me, and it gives your brain time to be like, what do I do next, right? And it's a way of orienting in a dangerous situation. And so I just wanted to really like drive that home because I think that there's a lot of stuff online that can make it sound like regulated means calm. If you have a regulated nervous system, you're like always zen. And I'm like, no, that's bypassing. It's not regulation. A regulated nervous system responds appropriately to the stimulus in front of it, and it's up and down, so we don't get stuck. And that's not to shame anybody who gets stuck, right? Because like our body gets stuck in responses that have been grooved into our nervous systems by years of conditioning that this was the only way it was safe to respond. So that is a place, an invitation for curiosity and compassion, and like a lot of gentleness with ourselves of like, oh, I'm doing it again. Is this what I want to do? How can I support my body in moving in a different way? What does my body need right now? Like if I'm really frozen, do I maybe need to like do some things that make me really feel really safe? Like, do I need a hot bath? Do I need to cuddle a puppy or go ask a friend for a hug? Do I need to cry? Often for me, that's if I'm feeling like numb, I need to cry. Like there are tears, they need to come through. I need to like grieve the thing and feel the thing. So I just wanted to put that piece there because I think that that's one of these foundational things that like gets missed because of how our society is conditioned us to view challenging emotions that we are unpracticed at dealing with. They are not negative, they are not bad, they are not harmful, they are protective, they are evolutionary. Like we evolved with terror, fear, anger, all of these things. They're very self-protective for the most part, and I think that that's why we get conditioned out of them, because in a society like patriarchy and racism and capitalism, all the levels of oppression, having people in touch with their actual survival instincts is really dangerous, right? Because we would do things more, we would move more, we would like be like, no, you can't treat us like this, no, we won't do this, yes, we're going to stick together, yeah, we're going to take care of each other. Unfortunately, we have like years, millennia of conditioning that have kind of like disconnected us from our more like innate physiological responses, or our animal selves, so to speak. So I think that that's important to just like mention. The other piece of this is to validate that like we are social creatures, we are pack animals. Human beings always have. We like evolved over millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, and millions of years before we were humans, to be in like social communities of like 100 to 150 people. So two pieces with that is that like the pack is spooked, and that is normal. Like think about horses, it only takes one to get spooked, and then they all just bolt, right? So we are dealing with that level of energy in the collective. The collective is like freaking out. And so my thing with that this week for me has been like not being online. Like I've seen the Nick Fuentes's memes, I've seen the whatever, and I've just had to be like, I do not have capacity for this. Because the cycle of fear mongering around y'all's election specifically is banana pants. As an autistic person who is like so pattern recognition, I'm like, since social media and since I started paying attention about 10 years ago, I was like, yeah, it's big deal. Like every time you guys have an election, the world is ending. And I want to say two things with that, is that like, yes, the material circumstances of people in your country have gotten significantly more dangerous. That is true. And there are always ways around things, and people will find a way. And as someone who like has like realized in 2020, when I was like, oh, learning more about stuff on social media when we were all like in lockdowns and things like that, and the subsequent years, is that like I was like, oh, I've always been an anarchist, I didn't know this. Like I just was like, oh, okay. And essentially for me anyway, how I look at anarchism is that like the government has never really saved us, we save us. Like community saves us, we save each other, right? And so like the government like does the roads and the whatever and the hospitals and the things that are generally usually falling apart and are not safe. Like things are always in a state of flux. And especially in your country, like, and not that it's not like this in mine, but really like my brain is being so autistic about this, hold on. Like this is a lot of information, how do I make this smaller? The root, like how the legal system, the political system, and everything was built in your country is also very much influences that like there will always be an element of fascism to the US politics. Like that is like it is baked into the sauce. Like it is the thing. Like it's the flour. Like it's not, it's not like, oh, it's the cheese on top. Absolutely not. Like this is a main ingredient. And so in a lot of anarchist spaces that I've been in, people are like, I hate this. And I think that it's in a way a good thing, because now people can't delude themselves that like we're safe, it's fine, because there's a Democrat in power who's also like paid by capitalists and like aligns with fascist ideologies. Like there's a certain level of like, for lack of a better way to put it, I said this in a writing group yesterday, there's a lot of Pluto and Capricorn in this. Like there is a lot. Like, And if anybody knows anything about Pluto and anything about Capricorn, those are two things that do not fuck around. Like Capricorns are like the most truth-telling signs. They will tell you everything about yourself and you will be like, ow, do I have any skin left on my body? Shit. And Pluto is a sign of like death and rebirth. So there is a lot of that in the world, and I think that that's a lot to hold. And I think that the somatic principles of like titration and pendulation, which titration is basically like doing a little, right? So like going on social media for 5 minutes and being like, oh, my nervous system is activated, that is enough. Like, and going away and doing something that makes you feel like using that like flux and flow of it, right? Of being like, I'm getting activated. Okay, I'm going to do something to bring my nervous system like down into feeling more safe. I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to go watch some funny cat videos, whatever the fuck it is, you know? Those things are good. Like that is a good practice to do that is like healthy. And then, okay, so the other piece of this is that like fear is meant to be felt and metabolized, and so is grief. And so like there was mention of shielding, and like I'm not really a person who shields. I have far too many water placements for that. I'm gonna be really honest. I'm like I have stellium in Cancer, a three placement stellium in Cancer, 3 placement stellium in Scorpio, and I have a Taurus stellium as well that I just like realized was like, oh yeah, my Lilith, Venus, and my North Node. Okay, cool. So for me, with all that water, the flow is the thing. Like it's just like feel it, let it come through. Don't hold on to it for too long. Let it do its 90 seconds to 2 minutes emotional, like I'm bawling in my car in the grocery store parking lot, and then like hold my body through that and move on. And so I just want to invite that possibility into people's lives, because I don't think that that's how most of us engage with emotions. I know it's not, I didn't until I learned all these things like 3 years ago. I like resisted emotions, and then they hung around for days and weeks and months and all of those things. And so there's a piece of this that also relates to kind of the intrusive thoughts of like holding whatever's happening in our brains with open hands, of being like I was taught about meditation that it's like train spotting. So it's like it's not about not having thoughts, it's not about being resistant to thoughts, it's about like almost imagining the thoughts are like flowing by a river, like that you're sitting by the riverside and the thoughts are the river and they just come by. And so you can just like let them pass by you without attaching or hooking onto either one. That's the scale of meditation. It's not the like don't have thoughts, because that's impossible, especially if you're neurodivergent. Like good luck. Like, we're not doing that. It's being like, okay, like can I just like not attach to any of those? Can I just like let them be? And if something is sticky, maybe that's a place for curiosity and compassion. Like, is that something, do I need to deal with that thing actually before I can meditate? Is that a thing that like needs to be addressed? Do I need to write it down? Like I used to have a notebook when I would like do yoga, and I would just like write stuff that wouldn't go away down, or I would do morning pages type stuff where I would just brain dump crap. So I was like, get it out of my head. Okay, I said that. I said this. The other piece of this is like the fear, the terror, the anger, all of these really potent, powerful survival energy emotions are there to move us into action, right? Like fear is a flight emotion, at least in my books. And so is terror. Anger, rage are fight emotions. Both of those things are movement based. So it's like, what can we be doing to support our nervous systems to to harness and transmute that energy into action? Like, if you're terrified, obviously being with the terror, holding your body, like doing somatic self-soothing practices, those types of things to build your capacity, right? Like you don't want to like cry until you can't breathe and like and then have to dissociate. Those are not like, that's not what we're looking at. That's where the other somatic practice of pendulation, like moving towards it for a brief period of time and then moving towards something that is positive and soothing, comes in. And I can try to put some links for some of these things in the app, probably not today because today is bananas, but for me, but like I'll just write a note about that. Is, you know, like in true anarchist fashion, is like, are there mutual aid organizations in your town that you can get involved in? Are there community organizations that you can get involved in? Are there community gardens? Like, go check out your local library. Their libraries are pretty like leftist for the most part. If you can kind of like, they'll have like, oh, we're saving seeds, or oh, we're having whatever. So those can be good like community places to go find things that might be going on. If there's community boards, or ask at the library, they might know. But getting into your community and finding people physically around you and utilizing this is really hard. And it took me a good year and a half to almost 2 years of being here before I felt brave enough to reconnect with my like in real like in geographical area community, where I was like, okay, I have built up enough capacity. So like this doesn't have to happen quickly, but this piece of like finding people around you that you can be in community with, and that doesn't mean you agree all the time, because like that's not how that works. It means that like you're there for one another, because we're human beings. Like some of this stuff is really messy. Okay, other piece of this that I wrote down was honoring that, you know, we all have women ancestors that have experienced like control, violence, and abuse. So just being mindful of the intergenerational trauma aspect of this that can also being lit up in our bodies, and like honoring and holding space for, and providing soothing and comfort for that. And if you do ancestor work, like maybe that's the place for that to be like, okay. Talked about that. We talked about this. Sorry, I was just like, I wrote so many things down, and I'm like, I knew I was just gonna like brain dump it as soon as I started talking. And I was like, wait. Also with that of like being like getting in community, there's a lot of stuff where it's like, is part of these political cycles, there's this like, oh my gosh, the fear, now we need to make all these new projects, and then there's burnout, and then the projects fall apart. So like, you don't need to start new things. There are 100% there are things where you live already. 100,000% there are things where you live already, where you could be of service, where you could feel of use. And that's the part that will help your nervous system, is to be in community and to feel like you're making a material difference and you're connecting with people, and as a pack animal, so to speak, that you like are among others in your physical proximity that like have at least some aligned values, and you can kind of be like, okay, like I might be okay. And then I just have two, I'm going to do this nervous system part and then something about threats, and then I'm done. So I'll put this in the app, but orienting as a practice for connecting with the now. So orienting is essentially the practice of like just connecting with what's in front of you, right? Like as animals, when we're in a confined space, we do it naturally. We scan the four corners of a room. You know, if you've seen a dog and they're cornered, that's, you'll see them like look all the way around. And our nervous systems do it as well. And it can be something that you do in more detail that can help you be like, okay, like my butt is in like in a chair, like connecting to the physicality of all of the what you're touching, all of those different things. It's also like technically the panic attack cure thing, that is like the smells, the touches, like what are you seeing, like that thing, the 4 5 3 2 1 or whatever. Though that's also an orienting practice to give you an idea. So helping your brain to be like, you know, when these huge big emotions of panic and fear and grief come up, being like, wait, like, am I actually in danger right now? And then looking around you and be like, wait, there's no tiger. I'm just in my room. Like, it's just my phone. I just need to put that down. Maybe I need to go for a walk. The other piece of that is like bilateral movement decreases, like down regulates the amygdala, which is our fear center. So things like the butterfly hug, where you like do the tapping, or like havening, where you like do the rubbing, walking, swimming, yoga, these things where you do movement with both sides of your body, but especially forward movement like walking really, really helps. To kind of like cue our brain to safety. So I was like, I think tangible physical things for that is always helpful for me to be like, okay, like, but like how? And the last piece of this is that I wrote down was like I hate this part. But threats are gonna come. Like, right? Like this has happened. People whose entire personalities are centered around groupthink, fear, and control have been emboldened. They're people. They're scared, right? Like this is the thing. You don't like treat other people like that if you feel comfortable and safe. Like that's the thing I realized about conservatives really early on. I'm like, oh, you're all like very terrified, and you just like have deferred all your decision making to like this way of being instead of your own critical thinking. This is weird, but I don't understand, but also I understand in that way. And so the people are going to be assholes, people are going to say rude things, there are going to be micro and macro aggressions. So in my little autistic brain, my thoughts are like, how do we as individuals and as a community as well, like prepare for those things, like in terms of scripts, like what do we say, can we practice with each other of like someone says something rude to me, this is what I'm going to say back. Those things actually help, like learning or practicing, like going through visualization of like how am I going to respond, helps our body feel more prepared, and we're more likely to like have a little bit more space when those things actually happen. And the other pieces, the questions that when I thought about this was, and like was pinged about this was like, how can you root into your own power, and who do you call on when you're afraid? There are so many warrior, like feminine women pantheons out there if you do goddess work at all. And you know, I just like had a handful that I thought it was like Artemis, Athena, even Aphrodite. People think like, oh, love goddess, and like, I mean, she's the goddess of also like essentially like pleasure and like love, emotion, and embodiment. So because it's a very Taurian energy. So sometimes that can be helpful in like helping us feel grounded and in our own bodies about something. The Morrigan, Freya, like there's a ton. I don't personally kind of connect with like I usually kind of lean more like Celtic or Hellenistic in terms of pantheons, or like Nordic, just because I don't want to appropriate anything and it makes me kind of uncomfortable. I will leave that to like your own internal compass about like how you feel about that and where that lands in your nervous system. But those were just a few that came up for me. And yeah, and I just, if anyone, excuse me, I've been dealing with a lot of health stuff lately, which is why I've been like kind of like MIA. But like, if anyone, you know, needs space to kind of like needs a reminder that like, how do I put this? I wrote a poem a long time ago, basically talking about all of the times when I like have felt really overwhelmed with the circumstances of life, and then I often look up at the stars and realize that like there are people through the millennia that have been going through the fall and rise of empires, like their own personal troubles, all of these things that have looked at these same stars and somehow found a way to survive. And so I will leave that with you as my closing, is that like this is not the end of us of like what has happened. This is a piece of many stories, and sometimes we just have to practice like stepping back from it all to find out where our thread is, so we can figure out where we belong, and so we can find our path through. I love you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Petra. That was amazing and tied in a lot of things, I think, from the whole meeting. I believe that Karen is next.
I mean, it's really unbelievable. Once your name is heard, your ability to touch the right thing on your screen goes down like 200%. Anyway, I think something that Petra, like, oh my God, you're spot on so many things. I love hearing you talk. And just the things that you say, it's just really helpful. And you you helped me realize I was an anarchist too. I totally forgot. Like I have no memories of my past like that. But I'm just anyway. It was really awesome. Maybe I'm getting my memories back. But I have a much bigger question that would be like an entire SASS, and that is totally get that we're all that this is a great time to work on ancestry, and like I'm totally I keep going back to Morgana. You're saying that you have tea with your ancestors. Like I totally understand that you're having tea and that they're present, but I don't know what that means. Other than that, I don't know how you have found them, and that's an issue with me. I feel way more tied to my past lives and how and my so there's a life lineage, for lack of a better term, and a DNA lineage. And does it matter? And I'm kind of thinking, of course, everyone here is going to say it doesn't matter. Do it makes sense to me, but the if at some point in time, and I can, if you want me to put this in the chat, I will. I just yeah, it's a like I don't get it. I have tried to ask find something in my DNA past, but like it's just crickets, man, crickets. But when I think about life lineage and the people that I know have been the souls that I know I have been in touch with repeatedly, I have such caring and much more safety there. Safety, I mean, right now it feels safe, but like I have much more of a connection on that side. And of course it doesn't matter, but like, does it matter? And is it possibly the exact same thing? Is it possible that my DNA lineage is actually linked to my life lineage? Anyway, these are all big questions and way too much for 12:55. Did I lower my hand or just try to lower my hand?
You're good.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Karen. Ezra Silver.
I actually just wanted to offer a like grounding for anybody that feels like it. I like Maria, I don't know if you're the main host or if Ocean is, but like if it goes a couple minutes over, like you could, and you don't want to stay, you could give it to me if you wanted, and I'll just close the meeting after that. So it
Go for
feels
it.
like
Me, Maria, is the host. Go for it.
okay. But if you wanted to say something first, that's also fine. I just noticed your hand was up, so.
I think I wanted to say, sure, I'll go and then we'll end it with the grounding for today. The meeting's recorded too, so people can go back if they need to. Something that I've just said before is don't the question that I pose is, well, how are you going to be a witch about it? Because we're navigating this lived experience as witches, and there's some like other tools in our tool belts that we can connect to. And so, yeah, I just invite you to think about that. Some stuff like that was mentioned here, which is born of shadow and connecting to our feelings and our shadow work. We often talk about that part of it a lot, which is important. And because our spellcrafts are an external representation of our internal process, it's like super highlighted and important that this. But we are witches, and there are people mentioned like some talismans to connect to um, things that you can in a spellcraft way that we can use for support and things like that. So just kind of mentioning that, and that's certainly something that I hope to continue, like conversations in the app and things like that. And for those of you not in foundations, of course, not like do whatever you feel connected to, but that's what we're doing on the 21st is engaging in a spellcraft there. And so I expect like some really powerful ear cuffs this month for the spellcraft. So I'm excited to engage with that. That's all I wanted to say. This has been an amazing SASS. We will continue to feel into what the next thing will be. And there's so much to say about that ancestor connection. Yes, it's definitely like its whole thing. And we've actually talked about it before too. I think we might have some, well, I don't remember which SASS it was, but there might be SASS there. So let's definitely continue to talk about that and remembering like your ancestor goes back way back to the ancestors that we don't even know about, you know. So just kind of remembering that as well. Oh, sorry. And the last thing I wanted to share is a lot of you know that there's a local witch here in Providence that is an author. Her name is Laura Tempest Sackcroft. I feel that her practice really aligns with what I'm doing, and so she's someone that I follow. They had and it pinged me because Petra brought up the deities, and they had a they held a Persephone Rising Ball in Providence, and they talked about um, that. And initially it was hard um, to go through the process of doing that thing, but ultimately they were glad that they did, um, and people really just felt that connection there. But just the one thing she said in her post was, "We journey to the underworld, but we also rise." And I just love that, she had said that. Um, for witches that are kind of newer and were, um, I really loved her book, Weave the Liminal. And she's also really great with sigil work and stuff like that. And sigils can also be a really powerful tool at this time to utilize in your magic. And um, yeah, I think that was everything that I wanted to share. So I'm gonna pass it back to Ezra Silver to close us out with a grounding today, and then I'll end the meeting after that. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in the app for more conversation.
Thank you, Maria. So feel free to close your eyes or put your hand on your heart or both. And we're going to start with a few deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. In, out. One more. In. Pause at the top. Out. You are sitting beneath a tree that you are fond of. Above you, the light filters through the leaves and they tickle the air. And smaller branches, like twigs, recede to larger ones, inward, growing thicker and sturdier as they converge at the trunk and head down
down to where you're sitting. Where the light right above your head ushers in your awareness. Breathe in, breathe out. And let that awareness collect there, building until it is shaped like an egg, pulsing with light, and then cracks with little light beaming through them begin to form as the egg splits open and spills warm, liquid light of your attention down over your head, over your forehead, your eyes, your nose, your ears, your mouth, your chin and jaw, down to your throat. Breathe in, breathe out. Now let your awareness drip further down over your shoulders where they are connected to the tree, leaning against it, sturdy behind you, over your collarbone and chest, down your spine, down your arms to your elbows and forearms and wrists and knuckles and the palms of your hand where they rest on large roots on either side of you like arms of a chair hugging you. And then drips off your fingertips and down back into the earth. Breathe in, breathe out. And now let the warm light of your awareness continue down further over your solar plexus and the base of your spine, pooling warmly into your hips where they are connected to the earth, down your thighs, down your knees, your calves and ankles and feet, in between your toes and over them, until the soles of your feet are soaked in the warm light of your awareness. And it pools around you and sinks in little creeks and rivulets, joining the roots of the tree beneath you as far as feels comfortable, stretching out, holding you. Breathe in, breathe out. And now, imagine those roots receding back up into you through the soles of your feet, pouring into you from the ground up and filling you to your ankles, to your knees, to your hips, also up your fingertips and hands and wrists and elbows, up to your solar plexus, where a warm halo of the surface of your awareness is still and steady. Breathe in, breathe out. And you are filled up further by your awareness up to your chest and shoulder blades and shoulders, up to your throat and your jaw and your mouth and your nose, your ears and eyes and the center of your forehead, all the way up to refill the little egg awareness resting on your crown, pulsing there, letting the warm light of your awareness fill you all the way up. Breathe in, breathe out. And now let it fill even further up into the tree. Your awareness going down into the roots of the tree and up toward the branches, back to the thick, sturdy ones, and then into the small, twig-like ones, reaching like fingers up into the sky, the leaves bristling and weaving into the clouds. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. When you're ready, you can return your attention back to the screen or wherever needs it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. We'll see you next time. You know where to find us. Bye, everyone. See you next time.